He does not look at the men who ruined him. He looks only at her. Stay with me to the end. It is a story you will not soon forget. Subscribe for more like it. And if you are with me, drop the word stay in the comments below. The air in the ballroom is thick with the scent of money and lilies. It is a cloying combination, one that sticks to the back of Ethan's throat. He stands near a marble pillar, half hidden in its shadow, a ghost at a feast. His jacket is wool, clean but worn at the elbows. His hands, resting on the cool stone, are calloused. They are the hands of a man who builds things, not a man who buys them. He watches his daughter, Lily, who is sitting on a velvet chair by the wall, carefully coloring in a book he brought for her. She is 6 years old and the calm center of his entire world. A wave of murmurs ripples through the crowd. Clara Vance makes her entrance. She moves like she owns the space, because she does. The Vance Foundation Gala, held in the atrium of the Vance Automotive Tower. Her late father's company, her legacy now. She wears a severe black dress that does not invite conversation. Her face is a mask of polite, glacial control. Grief is a cold, heavy thing, and she wears it like armor. Ethan watches her greet dignitaries. He sees the tension in her shoulders, the way her smile never quite reaches her eyes. He knew her father, Arthur Vance, a man of noise and vision, of grease-stained hands and booming laughter. He sees none of the father in the daughter. Not yet. Marcus Thorne is at her elbow, a whisper in her ear. He is the company's chief operating officer, a man whose suits are as smooth as his promises. He points a discreet, manicured finger toward the pillar where Ethan stands. His expression is one of concerned distaste. Clara's eyes follow his direction. They land on Ethan. For a long count, she simply stares. Her gaze travels from his worn leather shoes up to his plain, dark jacket, and finally to his face. There is no recognition, there is only assessment. He does not belong. The calculation is swift and cold. She begins to walk toward him. The murmurs in the room dim. Marcus follows a step behind, a predator shadowing its queen. Lily looks up from her coloring book, senses the shift in the room's energy. She sees the tall, sad-looking woman walking toward her father. Ethan gives his daughter a small, reassuring nod. He does not move from his spot. He does not straighten his jacket or try to appear as something he is not. He simply waits. Clara stops 3 feet from him. The scent of her expensive perfume cuts through the smell of lilies. "May I help you?" she asks. Her voice is not loud, but it carries the sharp edge of authority. It is a voice accustomed to being obeyed. "I don't believe so," Ethan says. His own voice is quiet, a low rumble against the room's sudden silence. "I think you may be mistaken," she continues, her eyes flicking toward the exit. "This is a private event. I believe you've wandered into the wrong room." The humiliation is a physical thing. It presses in on him, the collective weight of 100 pairs of eyes. He feels it, but he does not show it. He has weathered worse storms than a rich woman's scorn. Behind her, Marcus Thorne allows a small, triumphant smile to touch his lips. He has engineered this moment perfectly. "I have an invitation," Ethan says. He makes no move to produce it. Clara's gaze hardens. "I'm sure you do. Security will be happy to help you find your way out." She turns to Marcus. "Marcus, please have security handle this." She does not give Ethan a second glance. She dismisses him as one would a piece of lint on a sleeve, an inconvenience, an error to be corrected. Ethan does not argue. He does not raise his voice. He does not defend himself. He simply holds her gaze for exactly 3 seconds. In that look, there is no anger. There is a deep, abiding disappointment that is far worse. Then he turns, walks to his daughter, and kneels beside her chair. "Time to go, little bird," he says softly. Lily carefully puts her red crayon back in the box. "Is the party over, Daddy?" "For us it is," he says. He takes her small hand in his. Together they walk toward the grand doors. The crowd parts for them, a silent, curious sea. He does not look back. He walks with a steady, unhurried pace, a man leaving a place where he was never truly welcome. Clara watches him go. She expects to feel a sense of satisfaction of order restored. Instead, a strange and unwelcome unease settles in her stomach. It is the quiet dignity of his exit, the way he did not flinch, the look in his eyes. It bothers her. It bothers her all night. Later, in the sterile quiet of her penthouse apartment, the memory of the man's face returns. The city light glitter below a cold and distant galaxy. She replays the encounter. The condescension in her own voice, the smug satisfaction on Marcus's face, the man's unwavering, quiet stare. She does not sleep well. The silence of the apartment feels accusatory. Her father's portrait hangs in the hall, his eyes seeming to follow her. He was a man who judged people by the work of their hands, not the cut of their suits. He would have been ashamed. The thought is a sharp, painful stone in her chest. The next morning she drives her father's car. It is a 1967 Vance Sentinel, the last model he personally oversaw the design for. It is a beast of polished chrome and deep sapphire blue, a relic of a time when cars had souls. Driving it is the only time she feels close to him. 10 miles outside the city, the engine sputters. It coughs twice, a rattling, metallic sound. Then, silence. The car coasts to a dead stop on the shoulder of a rain-slicked highway. Clara grips the steering wheel. She does not swear. She simply closes her eyes and breathes. Of course, this would happen today. She calls the company's executive assistance line. They promise to send a flatbed from the corporate motor pool. An hour passes. The rain begins to fall in earnest, drumming a lonely rhythm on the roof. Another 30 minutes. No truck. Her phone rings. It is the assistant. Mr. Thorne has dispatched all the corporate transports to the coast for the new model launch, Miss Vance, the voice says, apologetic and nervous. He said nothing was available. A cold fury builds in her. Marcus, of course. But, the assistant continues, I found a specialty shop in the area. They work on vintage Vance models. The best, they say. A place called E-Hail Automotive. They're sending someone now. Clara hangs up. She waits. The rain streams down the windshield, blurring the grey world outside. A battered-looking tow truck eventually appears, its yellow lights flashing like a weary pulse. It pulls up behind the Sentinel. A man gets out, pulling the collar of a thick canvas jacket up against the rain. He walks to her window. He taps gently on the glass. Clara powers it down. It is him, the man from the Gala. His hair is damp with rain. His face is calm, unreadable. There is no flicker of recognition, no hint of animosity. He simply looks at her as if for the first time. Mom, he says, looks like you've got some trouble. For a moment, she is speechless. The universe has a cruel and specific sense of humor. It just stopped, she manages to say. Let's have a look, he says. He moves to the front of the car and unlatches the hood. Steam billows out into the cold, wet air. From the passenger seat of the tow truck, a small face peers out. It is the little girl from the party. He works in silence. His movements are efficient, precise. He does not waste a single motion. He touches the engine block, his fingers tracing lines of wiring and fuel hoses with an innate familiarity. He is not a mechanic. He is a surgeon. Clara gets out of the car, holding her designer coat over her head. The rain soaks the hem of her trousers. She stands beside him, watching. It's the fuel pump relay, he says after a few minutes, not looking at her. It's a custom job on this model. They always fail eventually if you don't know how to reinforce them. Can you fix it? She asks. I can bypass it to get you to my shop, he says. The proper fix takes time. He pulls a small toolkit from his truck and begins to work. The little girl gets out of the truck, a small blue umbrella held carefully over her head. She walks over and stands beside Clara, looking up at her with serious, curious eyes. Your car is pretty, the girl says. Thank you, Clara says, surprised. Daddy can fix it, the girl says, with absolute certainty. She points a small finger at the intricate V emblem on the grille. He can fix anything. He built it the first time. The words hang in the rain-filled air. He built it the first time. Clara looks from the child to the man. His back is to her, his shoulders hunched over the engine. The child's statement makes no sense. This car was her father's masterpiece. Arthur Vance built this car. What's your name? Clara asks the little girl. Lily, she says. My daddy is Ethan. Ethan E. Hale Automotive. He finishes his work. He closes the hood gently. That should hold, he says, wiping his hands on a rag. Follow me to the shop. It's about 5 miles from here. He does not ask for payment. He does not mention the night before. He just gets back in his truck, where his daughter climbs in beside him and drives away. Clara's back in the Sentinel. She turns the key. The engine roars to life, a deep, perfect rumble. It sounds better than it has in years. She follows the flashing yellow lights of his truck, the child's words echoing in her mind. He built it the first time. The phrase is a key, turning a lock in a door she never knew existed. Back at the office, she avoids Marcus. She goes not to her own gleaming, modern office, but to her father's old one. It is kept as a museum piece, a shrine to the great Arthur Vance. Dust motes dance in the afternoon light slanting through the blinds. The room smells of old leather and cold cigar smoke. She starts with the archives. She requests the personnel files from 1995 to 2010. She is the CEO. The request is fulfilled without question, though it raises eyebrows. Piles of grey, dusty folders are brought to her. She spends hours sifting through them. She finds him, Ethan Hale, hired in 1998. Title, Junior Design Engineer. The file is thin, a few commendations from her father, notes about his prodigious intuitive talent. Then a resignation notice from 2008. Reason cited personal. There is a note attached, signed by Marcus Thorne, recommending the acceptance of the resignation due to a catastrophic failure on the Phoenix engine project. The Phoenix engine, the company's biggest disaster. A revolutionary design that failed spectacularly during its final testing phase, costing the company millions and nearly bankrupting them. Her father never spoke of it. It was the great shame of his career. Something is wrong. The dates do not align. The man's quiet confidence, the girl's simple declaration. She digs deeper. She requests the original design schematics for the 67 Sentinel. They are delivered in a massive bound portfolio. She unrolls the heavy, yellowed blueprints on her father's vast mahogany desk. They are covered in notes, equations, and sketches. 2 distinct sets of handwriting fill the margins. One is her father's bold, familiar scrawl. The other is a precise, elegant script. In the bottom right corner, in the box for the lead designer, is her father's signature. But next to it, under Chief Mechanical Engineer, is another name, a younger, more junior engineer who should not have held such a title, E. Hale. Clara feels a chill crawl up her spine. It was not just her father's car, it was their car. She needs to talk to someone who was there, someone who would know the truth. Her mind lands on one name, George, her father's head mechanic for 40 years. He retired a few years ago, but still came in sometimes to tinker with the vintage models in the corporate collection. She finds him in the basement garage, a sprawling, clean space that smells of oil and polish. He is polishing the chrome on a vintage Vance Roadster, his movements slow and methodical. George, she says, he turns a rag in his hand. His face is a roadmap of wrinkles, his eyes clear and knowing. Miss Vance. I need to ask you about someone, she says, her voice tight. An engineer. Ethan Hale. George stops polishing. He looks at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. He seems to be weighing her, judging her intentions. Your father used to say you could judge a person's character by the questions they ask, he says, his voice raspy. That's a good question. What happened to him, George? The Phoenix project, George sighs. He puts the rag down. The Phoenix didn't fail, Miss Vance. It was too good. It would have changed everything. Made engines that lasted 50 years. Marcus Thorne couldn't have that. His division was in parts and service. He needed things to break. The simple, brutal logic of it hits her like a physical blow. He sabotaged it, she whispers. He made it look like Ethan's design was flawed, George says. Swapped out a key component for a substandard one just before the final test. Made sure the failure was spectacular. Your father, he was under pressure from the board. Marcus had them in his pocket. Arthur had a choice. Ruin the company fighting a battle he might lose or cut his losses. So he fired Ethan. No, George says, shaking his head. He never would have done that. Ethan left. He took the blame. He walked away to save your father, to save this company. He made your father promise to never speak of his contributions again. Said he just wanted to be left alone to do his work. Your father honored that promise. It broke his heart, but he honored it. Clara feels the floor shift beneath her feet. The entire history of the company, her entire understanding of her father's legacy, rearranges itself. The man she insulted, the man she had thrown out of his own legacy's celebration, was the one who had saved it. That evening, she does not go home. She drives to the address listed for E. Hale Automotive. It is a modest workshop in a quiet industrial part of town. Lights are on inside. Through the large bay window, she can see him. He is working on her car, the Sentinel. The engine is partially disassembled, the parts laid out on a clean cloth with surgical precision. He moves with an unhurried grace, his focus absolute. Lily is at a small table nearby, doing her homework. The scene is one of quiet domestic peace. It is a world away from the cold ambition of the Vance Tower. She watches for almost an hour. She sees him stop his work to help Lily with a math problem. She sees him laugh, a quiet, genuine sound that she cannot hear but can feel. She sees the gentle way he rests his hand on his daughter's head. This is the man Marcus Thorne called a failure. This is the man she dismissed as a vagrant. The weight of her misjudgment is crushing. She needs to find the proof. George's word is good, but to fight Marcus, to undo this, she needs something undeniable, something from her father. She returns to his office. She searches it not as a daughter, but as an investigator. She looks for anything out of place, a loose floorboard, a hidden panel. Her hand runs along the bookshelf, filled with leather-bound engineering texts. One book, a thick volume on thermodynamics, does not sit flush with the others. She pulls it out. Behind it is not a safe, but a small keyhole. A key. Where would he keep a key? She thinks of her father, his habits, his little rituals, the humidor on his desk. He did not smoke cigars, but he kept it full. He said he liked the smell. She opens it. Tucked beneath the cigars is a small, ornate brass key. It fits. A section of the bookshelf clicks open, revealing a small, hidden compartment. Inside is a single, heavy, leather-bound ledger and a thick manila envelope. She takes them to the desk. Her hands are shaking. She opens the ledger first. It is her father's private journal. His familiar handwriting fills the pages. She flips to the entries from 2008, the year of the Phoenix Project. October 12. Marcus presented evidence of Hale's fatal flaw. It feels wrong. Ethan is the finest engineering mind I have ever known. He is more of a son to me than an employee. But the board is rabid. Thorne has them convinced. October 15, I confronted Ethan. He didn't deny it. He just stood there and took it. But his eyes told a different story. He is protecting someone. Me, October 19. He resigned today. He made me promise to remove his name from the old projects. He said his silence was for the good of the company. My company. He is sacrificing his name for my legacy. I have never known a man with such integrity. I have never felt like such a coward. Tears stream down Clara's face, dripping onto the brittle pages. The pain and regret in her father's words are a living thing. Then she opens the envelope. Inside are the original, untampered schematics for the Phoenix engine, signed by Ethan Hale. There is a signed, notarized confession from a junior mechanic. dated 2 weeks after the incident, detailing how Marcus Thorne paid him to swap the component. And beneath that, a document that makes her gasp. It is a partnership agreement, drafted a month before the Phoenix disaster. It would have made Ethan Hale a 30% partner in Vance Automotive. It is signed by her father. The line for Ethan's signature is empty. The trinity of truths lands with devastating force. The full scope of Marcus's treachery, the depth of her father's respect for Ethan, and the quiet, profound nobility of Ethan's sacrifice. She knows what she must do. It is nearly midnight when she pulls up to his workshop again. The lights are still on. She gets out of her car and walks to the front door, the heavy envelope clutched in her hand. She knocks. After a moment, the door opens. Ethan stands there, a clean rag in his hand. He is wearing a simple grey t-shirt. He looks tired. He sees her, and his expression does not change. He simply waits. "May I come in?" she asks. Her voice is unsteady. He hesitates for a fraction of a second, then steps back, holding the door open. The workshop is clean, orderly, and warm. It smells of oil, metal, and coffee. Lily is asleep on a small cot in the corner, a worn teddy bear clutched in her arms. The Sentinel stands in the center of the room, its engine now fully reassembled. It looks pristine. "I know," Clara says, her voice barely a whisper. "I know everything." He does not pretend to misunderstand. He just watches her, his gaze steady. She holds out the envelope. "My father kept records of everything." He takes it from her, but he does not open it. He sets it on a workbench. "I am so sorry," she says, the words feeling small and inadequate. "For what I said, for what I did, for all of it. I was wrong." He is silent for a long count. The only sound is the quiet hum of a ventilation fan. "Why?" she finally asks, the question breaking from her. "Why didn't you say anything? At the gala, that day on the road, why did you let me treat you like that? Why did you take the blame for the Phoenix?" He finally looks away from her, his gaze falling on his sleeping daughter. "The first time," he says, his voice low and even, "it was to protect your father. He built a great company. He didn't deserve to see it torn apart by a man like Thorne. My name was a small price to pay for his legacy." He turns his gaze back to her. "The second time, at the party, it was because you are his daughter. You were grieving, you were under pressure, and you didn't know who I was. Defending myself to you then would have meant nothing. It was just noise." His simple, devastating honesty cuts through all of her defenses. He endured the slight not out of weakness, but out of a profound strength and understanding. He had seen her pain, even through her cruelty. A small sound comes from the corner. Lily is stirring. She sits up, rubbing her eyes. She sees Clara standing there. "Hello," Lily says, her voice sleepy. She climbs off the cot and walks over to a small hot plate. She picks up a mug that has been keeping warm. She carries it carefully, with both hands, over to Clara. "Daddy made hot chocolate," she says, holding the mug up. "It's good." Clara looks from the child's trusting face to Ethan's watchful one. She feels the last of her icy armor crack and fall away. She kneels down to be at the child's level and takes the warm mug. Her fingers brush against Lily's. "Thank you, Lily," she says, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you very much." She takes a sip. It is rich and warm and sweet. It is an offering, an acceptance. She is being welcomed into their small, quiet world. The alliance is forged not in a boardroom, but in a garage, over a cup of hot chocolate. The next week is a blur of quiet, focused activity. The company's new hydroelectric prototype, the Torrent, is failing its final integration tests. Marcus is pushing to scrap the core design, Ethan's original design, which he had stolen and modified, and replace it with a cheaper, less efficient model from a supplier he secretly controls. It is the Phoenix project all over again. "He's bleeding the company dry," Clara says. They are in Ethan's workshop. It has become her unofficial headquarters. "He's selling off our best assets and replacing them with junk he gets kickbacks on." Ethan studies the torrent's blueprints, which are spread across a workbench. His modifications are the problem. He introduced a flaw in the cooling system. It's designed to fail after about 500 hours of use. Right after the warranty expires. Can you fix it? She asks. It is the same question she asked him on the side of the road. We can, he says, looking up at her. But we have to do it before the board meeting on Friday. He's scheduled a vote to kill the project then. For the next 4 days, they work. Clara handles the corporate side, using her authority to divert resources and create a smokescreen of activity to keep Marcus occupied. She lives on coffee and adrenaline. Ethan, with George, who she has brought out of retirement as a consultant, works on the engine. She watches him work, marveling at the quiet intensity of his focus. He is a man completely at home in his element. There is a purity to it, an integrity that permeates every action. They speak very little, but a deep, unspoken understanding grows between them. They are two parts of a single machine, working in perfect sync. The night before the board meeting, they finish. The prototype engine rests on a test stand in the workshop, gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Start it up, Clara says. Ethan nods. He makes a final check, then hits the ignition. There is no roar, no shudder, just a low, powerful hum. It is the sound of perfectly balanced, efficient power. It is the sound of the future. A slow smile spreads across Clara's face. He won't know what hit him. The boardroom is on the 50th floor. It is a cold, sterile room of glass and steel, with a view of the entire city. The board members, 10 men and women in dark suits, are arranged around a massive granite table. Marcus Thorne stands at the head of the table, commanding the room with a slide presentation full of red charts and declining projections. The Torrent project, as you can see, is a financial black hole, he says, his voice smooth and reasonable. It's another ambitious failure. I propose we cut our losses and move forward with the more fiscally responsible option from Omnicorp. Clara sits silently, watching him. She lets him spin his web of lies. She lets him paint himself as the company's savior. When he is finished, a heavy silence fills the room. All eyes turn to her. Thank you, Marcus, she says, her voice calm and even. That was a very compelling performance. She stands up. She does not use a presentation. She has only a single folder in her hands. You're right about one thing, she says, her gaze sweeping across the board members. The company has been bleeding, but not from ambitious projects. It's been bleeding from a parasite. She opens the folder. She systematically, methodically lays out the evidence. The secret bank accounts, the shell corporations, the kickback schemes. The confession from the mechanic on the Phoenix project. The original, unmodified blueprints for the Torrent, which she reveals were submitted by Ethan Hale years ago and stolen by Marcus. Marcus's face goes from smug to confused to pale with terror. This is absurd slander. She's a grieving girl who's lost her mind. Am I? Clara says softly. I have one more piece of evidence. She nods towards the doors at the back of the room. They open. George wheels in the prototype engine on its stand. It is humming, a quiet testament to its own perfection. Behind it, Ethan Hale walks into the room. He is wearing the same clean, worn jacket. He does not look at Marcus. He does not look at the board. He looks only at Clara. He stops at the back of the room, standing silently by the wall. His presence is a moral weight that changes the entire atmosphere of the room. This the real Torrent engine, Clara says, built to the original design. The one Marcus Thorne told you was impossible. The board is in stunned silence. One of the older members, a man who knew her father well, turns to Ethan. Mr. Hale, he says, his voice heavy with respect. Is this true? Ethan meets the man's gaze. He speaks for the first and only time. Yes, he says. The single word is absolute. It holds the power of a decade of silence, of integrity upheld in the face of ruin. It is enough. Marcus begins to bluster, to deny, but his voice is thin and reedy. No one is listening to him anymore. The truth is in the room, humming quietly on its stand. I move for the immediate termination of Marcus Thorne for cause, Clara says, her voice ringing with cold authority, and for the launch of a full-scale criminal investigation into his activities. The vote is unanimous. Security guards enter the room. They escort a sputtering, defeated Marcus Thorne out. The vanquishing is swift, silent, and total. Clara then makes her final motion. I also move to reinstate Ethan Hale, not as an employee, but as was my father's original intent, as a full partner and the new head of research and development for Vance Automotive. The vote is again unanimous. Ethan's reputation is restored. His position is not just secured, it is elevated beyond what it ever was. After the meeting, the boardroom empties. Only Clara and Ethan remain. The engine still hums, a quiet song of victory. They walk out together, not speaking. The walk through the empty hallway and into the sterile quiet of the parking garage is filled with a new, more equal dynamic. The power imbalance is gone, replaced by a deep and mutual respect. They stop beside her car, the Sentinel. It gleams under the garage lights. The C-suite is on the top floor, she says. We have an office ready for you. The view is spectacular. He shakes his head. He looks around the concrete garage, at the rows of silent cars. My view is fine, he says. My work is not on the 50th floor. It's on the ground, with the engines. He is affirming his commitment to his world, to his craft. He will not be pulled into hers. Clara understands. She nods. Then we'll move the mountain, she says. R&D doesn't belong in a glass tower anyway. It belongs in a workshop. She is making a concrete move to join him in his world. Not as a visitor, but as a partner. She opens the trunk of the Sentinel. She takes out a long, flat wooden box. It is old, the wood dark with age. She holds it out to him. My father kept these, she says. I think they belong to you. He takes the box. He opens it. Inside, nestled in worn blue velvet, is a pristine set of vintage drafting tools. A master-grade compass, calipers, rulers. On each piece, a tiny initial is engraved. E.H. They were a gift from his own father. He thought they were lost forever. He looks up at her, his throat tight. He cannot speak. The gift is not monetary. It is a piece of his past, of his soul, returned to him. It is a symbol of their shared journey, of everything they have reclaimed. 3 months later, the sun is bright over the Laguna Seca racetrack. The air smells of hot asphalt and high-octane fuel. The new Vance R&D workshop, a state-of-the-art facility built around Ethan's original garage, is thriving. The company's stock has never been higher. A new car, the Vance Phoenix, sleek and sapphire blue, streaks across the finish line, taking first place in the vintage revival race. Its engine does not roar, it sings. In the pit lane, Ethan, Clara, and Lily stand together. Lily is on her father's shoulders, waving a small checkered flag. Clara is laughing, a genuine, unguarded sound. The sunlight catches in her hair. She is no longer wearing armor. She is just happy. They are a triumvirate, a small, unlikely family forged in deceit and truth, in engine oil and hot chocolate. Later, as the sun begins to set, the crowds thin out. The three of them stand beside the Phoenix. Its engine ticks softly as it cools, a sound of contentment. Lily is asleep in the passenger seat. Clara and Ethan stand near each other, not touching, looking out at the rolling California hills, painted gold by the last light of the day. The quiet between them is comfortable, filled with an unspoken understanding. He does not need to ask what comes next. She does not need to tell him. The work is done. The past is settled. The future is a clean, open road. The final stillness is one of quiet, earned hope. It is enough.